question I'd asked was, how do we check for understanding when we're flipping our lessons with students who may be watching these videos at home? This is an important thing to think about, and it's easiest if we actually design our content and chunk it so that we're thinking about this as we go rather than having to tack it on as an afterthought. I'm going to use release conditions in D2L as one obvious example of how we can do this. So I've gone to classroom assessments in my sandbox. I'm creating a lesson 1. I'm going to allow that attempt to be graded immediately upon completion because I want a grade as soon as they take that first test. I'm not going to place any restrictions on this particular exam because this is the start of their instruction. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the default start and end dates. You can also display it in your calendar if you like to give students that information that way. I'm not going to place any release conditions on this right now. This is going to be everyone's to take. Now, as you may have already guessed, the next lesson 2, lesson 3, etc., I am going to place the release condition that they score a 100 on the exam prior to getting that next assignment. So now we can go in, set out the layout of the questions for our test. I'm going to set up a section. I'm going to call that section First Video. I'm going to give them the message that I want them to watch this video before they attempt the test. Now from the advanced menu, I'm going to choose the link Insert Stuff. There's a nice assortment of things you can insert. The YouTube looks like it would be handy, but you'll notice that when you select it, you actually have to search YouTube, which if you're using your own flipped lessons, which I'm hoping you've shared as unlisted, that won't work for you. So instead, I need to be able to paste the actual link to my video in here as the URL. Now, I don't have a video to paste in there right now, so I'm going to make something up. If I did have a video, I could go to YouTube and get the embed code, and then I could actually embed it right into the portal in D2L. The link text is what shows up for them to click on. Preview will actually give you a little preview frame of the video, which is kind of nice. Again, I used a fictitious URL, so there wouldn't be anything to preview there. Now at this point, I'm ready to add the question. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to put in my assessment. I'm going to select a multi-select question, give them, let's say, 4 options, just for tradition's sake. My question, how can we check for understanding? Give it 100 points. You could, of course, have any number of questions. I would certainly encourage you probably to have more than one in this situation. As an example, we are only going to have 1 question. So how do we check for understanding when a student is viewing a video at home? Now we need to go down and put in our possible answers. Here's one that hopefully is obviously wrong. And here's the one we're presently working on. Again, this is why it's important to chunk as much as possible and to keep our videos hopefully to 5 minutes or less when it comes to students. Not just because their attention spans are short, but because we need to check for their understanding before we go too far ahead and leave some students behind. Answer 4 will be a video that will be coming later on using Google Forms to do this same idea. So in my particular question test, there are going to be 2 correct answers. So I'm going to mark this as correct and mark this as correct. And we're ready to go. So now, for my purposes, I'm going to go back, switch my role to a student so that I can take my own assessment As I said, I've got 2 possible correct answers here. I'm going to go ahead and choose them. And then I'm going to submit it. And I'm done. And you'll notice I got a 100. Go back and change my role. And now we can prepare our next chunk. Through the magic of video editing, we're going to save some time. I've already created lesson 2. Everything about it is going to be exactly the same as lesson 1. We're going to include a link. The only difference is this time we're going to attach release conditions to this lesson. So they are not going to get the next YouTube link until they've completed the first test. So the condition is going to be they must have scored a grade that I will define on a specific classroom assessment. The assessment I want them to take is lesson 1. I want them to have scored, let's say, equal to or greater than a 100. There we go. Now I've created that release condition and attached it. I've said that all those conditions must be met. And at this point, they will only get this new test, which also has the next video, when they've successfully completed the first one. And as you can imagine, we would do the same thing with the third test and so on and so on.